Sign up to The Economist for in-depth curated expert analysis of world events and topics ranging from business and culture to science and technology. You'll get the weekly digital edition, online-only articles, curated newsletters on politics, the markets, science, culture and China, and full access to The Economist Podcast Plus. The Economist is independent journalism for independent thinking. Go to economist.com and get your first month free.
This program contains subject matter and language that may be disturbing to some viewers. Your discretion is advised.
Savaged Unfiltered. Your host, Michael Gardner.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome to Savaged Unfiltered. I'm your host, Michael Gardner. Today we're joined by identical twin sisters, former therapists, now turned entertainers. And we're going to get their story, guys. This is Joan and Jane. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me, I should say ladies. I'm sorry. I usually have men on the show. It's like very rare I have women. So I do want to apologize. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Well, thank you so much. But you don't even have to apologize for that, because where we're from, we used to get in trouble for that. I would say you guys, and they would say, but Joan, there's women in the audience. And I thought, well, like whatever. But I grew up with that. So thank you. And within the twinship, I feel way more male than Jane. Oops. You know what? Hey, except when that darn trash pail from the kitchen has to be walked down the hall in the condo right now where we are. That would be me doing that. Blah, blah. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, it's a great honor. And through the accent, I could tell you you guys seem like you're former New Yorkers.
Oh boy. Okay, so our ancestors came to Ellis Island. We're really only second generation over here. So forgive us. New Haven, Connecticut is like a mini New York in a lot with the accent. And so we're New Haven County. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, because I got
it right.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of either Lower Manhattan or maybe Long Island, because I'm originally from the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
You know, so I was going to say Long Island, because wait till you hear how we say the breakfast beverage. This was a problem where we live. You know, they really had a problem with us. This is how we would say it: coffee. So
coffee, okay.
I was in a convenience store in Maine in the 80s with my ex-husband at the time, and I guess I said something like, "Hey Jim, don't forget, get me a cup of coffee too." And the man behind the counter said, excuse me, miss, where are you from? Oh, he had never heard the accent. That's wonderful.
Wow.
The most common beverage. Wow. Of course, my ex is not from there. Oops.
Oh, no?
My ex has a Western Massachusetts accent, so you can tell it's not Boston, but then keep going west. And he thinks he's the proper English. So don't we all? Because he's from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Oh, right. We're from lowly Connecticut. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, what made you ladies move down to the Sunshine State of Florida?
Oh, well, that's Joan. I moved. Jane hasn't. She's staying with me right now, but she hasn't moved yet. She will, just like she didn't like jelly at first. I know. She will. Like apple pie. I'm a snowbird for a minute. I moved down because Connecticut's state tax was huge, and I broke my foot. I didn't have health insurance, and I paid half my bill, and then they came after me, and I literally had nowhere to live. And so I was already in an efficiency apartment. So I said, our parents are dead. That condo in Florida is draining us. So I moved here. It was.
Oh, wow. But the entertainment side of your practice, what does that come in place? Because I know that you guys are former therapists. So how did are you there? Hello?
Now we are. Somebody
Okay.
was calling. I hope it wasn't. Oh, well, I'm sorry. What didn't you hear? Everything?
Oh yeah, I was asking. No, it's okay. It's technology. It's everything. We're basically getting thrown all over the place today, right? In society.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, I was saying, I see the where did that come into play? Because that's rather interesting. If I
Well,
may add.
well, Jane, did you want to answer that? Because I'll just say I'm really, really funny, and it got in the way, and not even in a bad way, but it got in the way of traditional treatment. Where when I was being really comical with patients, inpatient psychiatric, long term, they started opening up to me, and I was an RN and was not prepared for their answer. And I'm just going to say, like, this is where my first job was. And I was a young person. 24 was my major first job. Sorry, I was a late bloomer. And I was making somebody laugh. And what she said to me, she was a young girl in a wheelchair. She said, the only orgasm I've ever had, Joan, was by my father. And that's why I threw myself off the bridge into oncoming traffic. So it was like, oh shit, like I wasn't expecting that. So as a young person, all I did was I sat next to her, said I was sorry, and then was silent because honest to God, I didn't know what to say. But nowadays they say that's good. But I kind of got in trouble by the treatment team. They thought I enticed her to tell me. And then they were saying, we've been waiting for years for that. Well, you didn't know how to fucking laugh. So sorry.
So hence comes a long line of we're kind of like rebels. We take after our father. Our mom played it a little safer in life. And so then we became therapists, and we didn't really like what was going on in the prescribing community because we were prescribers as well. And so we got in trouble on the prescriber side, and I'd like to minimize that just for today. We could, if you want time later, but it's not as funny. And so
Savaged, unfiltered.
And so we just went with it, and we thought the absurdity, first of all, the absurdity of individual therapy being the main therapy covered by insurance when everybody learned that group therapy is the best agent for change. But we tried that too. And boy, do the insurance companies, they kind of dictate who can be in a group and who can't. It's a lot of work for not as good reimbursement. But anyway, so big rebels, we got out of the profession and we wrote this book, trying to break the stigma, coming out with our own mental illness.
And come to find out, our own traumas are hilarious. So
Yeah.
we laughed at ourselves, and a couple of people said that they didn't commit suicide because of how bad our lives were. And I was like, whatever, fuck you. Glad you're moving forward. And that's it.
And, once you go through that burning building of depression, anxiety, manic episodes or, whatever the psychoses that people go through, I find for me, and my major symptom of my trauma was depression. I found that it wasn't until Joan and I duked it out during the writing of the book. The ego can really get in the way when you're trying to write a short book. What's going to be included? Of course, Jane here thinking, well, my stuff's much better. It should be included. And the other ego might say something else. But it wasn't until I got through all that we kind of fought a lot, and then humor was the only way out.
Yeah.
It seemed that humor was the way out.
Yeah. My producer of the show, Mackenzie, laughing her ass off over there in the corner, but we got a partition wall, so it's we kind of block it out, so a lot of the background doesn't come through. But it sounds like you were originally, you had that interest and passion for therapy, and it just wasn't a good fit for you, both of you, and it seems like entertainment really, really specializes your demeanor of character.
Absolutely. Patients, we started working together in the end, and patients, they'd see just a quick interaction in the waiting room, and they're like, where can I buy tickets to this? And so, we helped people along the way, but the humor, and you can't use humor 100% in therapy, because it's in my own case as well. When I went for therapy, there was some laughter, but if I didn't get my crying out, there was no moving forward.
Oh yeah, get the crying out. I used to joke with
Oh, yeah.
clients that if you don't cry on the first session, I'll fucking hit you to make sure. Because if you don't cry first, you do have to move through it. Unfortunately, it is unfortunate, and then it brings it back. But some groups are not the best, Jane. When women have gone to groups because they've been assaulted or raped, they'll go to a group. If you talk only about the trauma and never about what got you through it or what you're doing now in healthier ways, or the people that you're close to now that are helping you. If you only talk about trauma, you stay in it. And therein lies that hilarious Woody Allen movie where he's eating a hot dog. And that's that psychoanalysis of you complaining for all those years. I fell into that. You complain.
Yeah.
Wait, Woody Allen says something brilliantly funny in that movie, though.
Well, as a
Woody Allen
patient,
is a fucking he's a fucking mastermind, with his
Yes.
I follow him very well.
Yeah, and when he was a patient, and I think John Turturro in the movie was like, "What is wrong with you?" And he said, "Give me a break. I've only been to therapy for 20 years." I mean, that is hilarious because, as we know, after a year, even it's like, "Hello, let's get to the issue." Jane had a mentor that helped so much. You know what he used to say? "You came to
What's
me." Jane, you want to say it? You came to me.
Oh, one of my mentor was older. And so he had, back in the olden days, if you were going to be a therapist, especially a psychoanalyst that does psychoanalysis, you had to have your own psychoanalysis, right? Then they kind of forced you to have your own therapy, and then they only could twist your arm. And so who would do it and who wouldn't? But so he was psychoanalytically trained.
Yeah.
So he would say beautiful things like, so let's use Sally as the patient. "Hey, Sally, you came to me because we were talking about issues with your husband and in the bedroom. But it's funny, we visited every other room in your house. Can we get back to the bedroom sometime?"
Ooh, Jane, today that might have been.
All right, so yeah,
she might have. If she was a young girl, she might have thought that was sexual harassment. I feel sorry for young girls.
But our mother thought this gentleman was quite handsome, though.
Yeah, but you know what I feel sorry about for young girls is what I feel badly about is my first job when I was 16 was at Wendy's. And
I didn't get the job.
Jane, I'm sorry. I know.
We both applied. I didn't get it.
Go ahead, Joan. But
You
anyway,
didn't get the job.
Jane didn't get that job.
I didn't get it.
Oh.
You know what?
Oh my God!
That was just as devastating. Yeah.
You mentioned something about. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that was half as devastating as when Joan won the flag coloring contest.
I had
in kindergarten.
I don't think it was kindergarten.
It was
first grade, I think. Yeah, that was. I wonder why I stayed in the lines. See, and then I broke the rules later. But anyway, I feel sorry for people today because they don't have the experiences. Whereas I think diversity training should be done in, like kindergarten. But when I got my first job at 16, the hamburger guy who looked like the skipper on Gilligan's Island, the first thing he said when I was introduced was, in front of other men, wow, because I was real skinny. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. I looked like olive oil on Popeye. And he said,
really?
Wow, look at the new girl. If you fucked her, you'd open her like a zipper. And you know what? You just moved. At that time, I just moved on.com because I was trying to talk to the fry boy. Let me tell you, the fry boy, and this is your first job, fry boy. I said, "Oh, what's that like bracelet or something he had?" It wasn't a bracelet back then. It might've been a beeper because I don't think they had that. He said, "Oh, I just got out of juvie." And I didn't know what that meant, but juvenile, whatever that is. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, really? What happened?" He said, "I like to start fires." And he's the one on the French fries with all the grease. And I was like, woohoo, first job. Wonderful. Minimum wage.
That's terrific.
It was a great job.
I gotta ask this question here. On your website, you put motivation, right? And you guys, I mean, you're labeled as motivational speakers.
Yeah, we gotta go in and get rid of that, I think.
No, shush up. Go ahead.
Yeah, where's the motivation speaking coming from this? Because I see a lot of humor, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I love the fucking humor because I think we need a little bit more fucking humor in this country because the country is becoming a melted pot, you know? But
I'll tell you, some of the humor, is it just the Jones show, Jane? You want to say where that's coming from? But I'll just say for my clients, some of the humor that got them to take the first step was, let's just say, this isn't funny right this minute, but it was in the office. I didn't finish my bachelor's degree until I was 35 because I wanted to go.
It's time.
We've got a global fan event to launch.
Drum roll, please.
Are you ready for Tudum? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Today I get to share a special gift.
It's happening.
Coming at you right now.
Tudum is back.
Let's reveal some steamy secrets, shall we?
I'm very excited for you guys to see it.
I'll meet you there. Check out the news you've been waiting for.
Get ready for some action.
Bonjour, Tudum.
It's time.
Chegou a hora.
Let me tell you what you're about to witness.
I'm so excited to introduce my new movie.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into making this.
Here's a sneak peek behind the scenes.
It's very exciting, you know?
Yes.
Hola, hola.
Thanks for joining us.
Let's get down to business. It's happening.
It's magical.
Se viene, gente. Se viene.
I'm into it, babe. I'm into it.
Go time.
Take it away.
Get ready to have your world turned upside down.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Because we're sounding the alarm. In 5,
4, 3,
2, 1. Positions, everyone.
We got this. Right?
Was, let's just say, this isn't funny right this minute, but it was in the office. I didn't finish my bachelor's degree until I was 35 because I wanted to go on to get a higher education, but because smart bitch over here was already at Columbia University moving on. And I was like, you're moving on? Like, could you wait for me? She said, no. So some of it came from that, where you tell people, say, I didn't even get it until I was 35. They almost, not that they want to prove themselves to me, but it was like me in my life. If somebody said, you know, really, you know, I didn't do this until later, there's time in life for everything. And I think we forget that.
So a lot of the humor, what comes out are experiences where other people, while they're laughing, sometimes at us, not even with us. And that's great. We want that because what it offers them is hope that they're not a loser and they might be able to do it too. And there's the motivation, because we have never, ever been anything other than sloths,
Misfits,
you know, and misfits. So we've never been those type A personalities. So if somebody thought the motivational speakers meant for the type A's that already can do it, we weren't there. We were more for the misfits that don't know how to get out of bed in the morning. Or their anxiety.
Yeah, you seem like you're.
Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. You seem like you were going that route, but you know, just the entertainment kind of took it to another level, and you basically been kind of, you know, driving off of that mentality. You seem like you're and I like this because I'm somewhat of the same thing, you know, as a podcast host and just, you know, a winging it scenario. Am I seeing that a little bit in you guys, or?
Here's what I think you're saying. This is Jane, the one that was the Bourville person that couldn't seem to get better until my son said to me, you know, you can't take a joke. And so the motivation for me was, you know, on a few levels, like I'll prove him wrong first. First and foremost, my ego just stepped in. I'm going to prove you wrong. And that was my motivation to get me going. But anyway, the winging it, what we've been told is what we needed was years and years and years of work and life experience. And just any person, and I'm not minimizing people speaking. I used to speak for a pharmaceutical company. Don't hold it against me, please. There's something to be learned from speakers and lecturers, et cetera, et cetera. But what we found was the best motivation for change was our story. So when we wing it, what we do is we do not prepare because we want it to be spontaneously passionate. What did you just get a rise out of me? What did that last statement remind me of? And we have so much wisdom from all of our degrees and all of our experiences, good and bad, that we just want to share. Yeah. Laughing our asses off.
Yeah, I mean, I like to consider myself like, another Joe Rogan or, a young Michael Savage, because I bring it all on my show. I'm not a scripted podcast. I don't read off of a teleprompter. I think reading off of a fucking teleprompter, I mean, you're a fake, you're a fraud. You're not delivering, a formula. Exactly.
And we noticed that if we did try to prepare, it actually wasn't funny. And Jane used to just storm off. She'd say, "This is boring."
I would give it about 2 to 3 minutes. And when it was studied and we were trying to be actresses, and both of us had done some acting, very, very little. Joan's a much better actor than I am. But it didn't go as well. And people said, no, I like you guys spontaneously.
And who's changing the world? I love it. Yeah. Comedians. They're going right to the limit and beyond. And people want cancel culture. And what I want to say about cancel culture is you're not affording yourself to learn about other people. Don't let culture and tradition hold you hostage.
Yeah, I was getting a notation from producer Mackenzie, and she was like, Michael, don't address them by Jonah Jane, because it's hard as it is just to identify who's speaking, because you ladies are literally identical. It's hard to tell you apart through the pictures. So I'm just gonna wing it. Hopefully I'm talking to Jane. Hopefully I'm talking to Joan. Basically here, you're talking about comedians and stuff, this cancel culture. Trust me, I handle a lot of political viewpoints on my show a lot too. And I don't get into that fucking cancel culture because it's not even worth talking about.
Nope.
It's disgusting what you're seeing today. Look, disgusting.
I know.
Because I'd be canceled. And you know what? Within my therapy walls, people would say to me, "Oh, Joan, you don't have a kid. I want to know what Jane has to say about this." And then if Jane, who knows, Jane's so much better in bed, I guess, that they would say they wanted to know about sex. They're like, Joan. And I'm thinking, why don't you want to talk to me? But anyway, when we did shit together, oh my God, did people get better? Because it was a comedy act. Even husbands and wives would be like, well, Joan's got my back. And I always had the dude's back except for one time. And that poor guy was so upset. But anyway, both sides have to be seen. Otherwise, if identical twins can't even get along, how do we expect a world to get along?
You know what you remind me of? And this is a compliment because they're very well-known identical twins, and they do a podcast and they have the same demeanor of you. Oh. You remind me of a female version of the Hodge twins.
Wait, I've heard of the Hodge twins. Those are guys, right?
Yeah. They do comedy. They're all over the country, and you remind me so much of a female version of the Hodge twins.
They're on Instagram. I think we might be following them, but if they didn't follow us back after a couple of years, we may have hit the unfollow. Anywho, but we'll look them up. Yep, that's a compliment.
Yeah, you got to check them out. They're fucking hilarious. They really are.
Wonderful.
That's great. Anyway, we survived our whole upbringing, and it was because our father was just so funny. And then our mother said, I would have left your father years ago if he didn't make me laugh. So there is something to laughing. And Harvard has done studies, which is a little boring, but it does. It boosts your immune system. It gives an antidepressant effect. You can't feel pain simultaneously. That big word.
Simultaneously. It exercises your core muscles, and women with menopause, they could start turning into a 2x4 or a SpongeBob.
Trust me. I had to endure that shit from my ex-wife, and thank God I'm not experiencing that crap.
Yeah, but I feel like I got to try and not turn into that, because my ex-husband, what he calls older women? Handsome. And I'm thinking, I know. What's that about? I feel more handsome. I don't like that. And then you guys start calling us ma'am, and it sounds like man. And I thought, oh my God, we turn into men. So, that estrogen is a powerful thing. Isn't it sad? We lose that.
It's terrible. It really is.
It's horrible.
Yeah. And with some women, menopause hits. And if you had any hint of insomnia, now it's like total insomnia. And so I think God wants us to be watchdogs because we're up all night. And it's not like we're up all night, making sure we're going on a date with a 25-year-old.
Oh, and if we're up all night, we've got to look more manly and look more tough. There it is. Evolution. We've got it. Or
Right.
growing old. We just solved it. Because the Kravitz on Bewitched. The Kravitz used to be the watchdogs. That's cute.
Oh, yeah. I remember that show. Oh, they got to bring back the classics. They really do.
Yeah, so people could laugh more because television, I don't even watch it anymore because if it's not a little bit funny, although violence, I do like it, watching it. And I will say that Scarface, I saw at the theater when it came out, and Jane's ex-husband was so distraught by it, and we were walking out, and he's like, wow, that was so violent. And according to Jane,
Pacino nailed it. Really did.
Yeah. Jane and Jim said what I said was, really? You thought that was violent? And at the time I didn't understand trauma. But if you suffer trauma yourself and it's in a violent manner, your body remembers. So that on to what's familiar. So don't be so hard on yourself. Everybody's like, yeah, but I went back to him because he or she was abusive. Well, how many times did you keep the dog before this country, which I'm not for putting dogs down, but the dog might have bit 3 or 4 people. I mean, why can't we do that with humans? Keep the person around a little bit, show compassion, not be hit like a sucker punch or fucking fuck-faced. I get that. You don't want that. But hey, verbal abuse. I was the verbal abuser, and thank you, God, for those 2 men and Jane and my parents, not always my sister Lori, but thank God that they allowed me a little of that because otherwise I couldn't get better. If everyone abandoned me, well then fuck you. I'm not going to get better.
Everybody's so fucking sensitive today. They're so offended by every little fucking label. It's like this is not the United States anymore. I feel like I'm in another like a third world fucking country or something where I have to like really explain myself to everything. Like I don't have to explain myself to anybody. This is fucking America, Joe. This is fucking America, Jack. I'm going to do what the fuck I want. And that's it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people can't even have a conversation anymore. There's like new rules to a conversation is you can't like say whatever was your thought because the second the other dude disagreed with it, it's like now turned into a courtroom.
Yeah.
It's a debate of right and wrong. I don't know when that happened because we know for a fact when we were younger, this is the 70s, picture it. And there was a party coming up and our parents were dressed up, but it was voting time. And they came home after they voted and 3 kids, mommy, daddy, who'd you vote for? And they looked like upper echelon. I'm sorry, that's my right to vote. And it's a private thing. And we couldn't get which one voted. And I think I think one voted for Reagan. That's the 80s.
Yeah. Because my parents, my mother grew up in the late 60s, early 70s. And I can remember her telling me, stories of Reagan and, the Carter and Nixon years and stuff like that. But,
our dad always said that Nixon was good at foreign policy. He might have been a lot of other things, but he was good.
Oh, and our father also said, that a lot of people do things wrong. And of course, Nixon took for the team. I'm not saying that Nixon was good at anything, please. If people are going to be mad at me, I didn't know Nixon. But what I heard about Nixon was he was an older guy and he wondered why young people didn't like him. But he was also in the era of, say no to all drugs. And you know what? Young people aren't going to be okay with that because they need to separate from their parents, I guess. But what I saw in Nixon was depression now that I'm an older person, and I wouldn't be able to comment as a therapist, but those his facial expression was very sad.
Well, we saw a movie too, you know, it was based on somebody, and he was very sad the young people he wasn't connecting.
And the number one sign of depression in men is irritability, actually. So if you have one of those guys, instead of just, or girls, instead of just leaving us, Joan, me, instead of leaving me all the time, maybe I deserved treatment, but no one understood back then. Anyway, and Democrats and independents all got along. We all had parties as kids, and we didn't know everybody. We didn't know their sexual preferences. We didn't know their political preferences.
Oftentimes we didn't know their religious preferences, because a lot of us, we were rebels on the street and only went to church or the synagogue when you had to, kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, half these kids today, they're so spoon-fed, by media, by society today. It's altogether different. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I could tell you, almost 35 years ago, my generation was a hell of a lot different. Parents weren't afraid to discipline. The street light came on, you get your ass home for supper, and that was that. You back talk your mother, she gave you that look, like literally turned her head, she gave you that look, that was it.
Right, right. It's weird. My kid is 32, and when he was younger, I don't know when it happened, but we all had to be helicopter parents, because it was against the law to leave them, and they couldn't be outside playing. And those things called play dates started. Yeah. And I wasn't the best at interviewing the other parents, because one time the mother called and said, do you have weapons in your home, Jane? Or maybe she called me Mrs. Buckley. And I said, wow, what a great question. I had never asked before with the other parents. And I did not have weapons. But the other time I was talking to somebody, and Adam was younger, and I was like, hey, okay, sweetie, that goes in your weapons basket. And then I went back to the telephone. I'm like, oh my God, do you hear what you just said, Jane? He has a weapons basket. And they were toys, yeah. But we had to like almost like coddle the kids, is what I'm saying. And then what I tried to do is
I love this Rakuten app. Look at that. I open the app, find the store that I want to use, start buying, and gets me tons of cash back. I just got paid to shop.
My favorite thing about Rakuten is just getting money back in the mail.
I mean, who wouldn't want cash back?
Sign up today.
Needed to have some kind of independence, and I would try to do that as much as I could. But it led to these kids that are offended by everything and triggered, and then we did them a bit of a disservice.
Oh, they're triggered by everything. I mean, I see it every freaking day on social media. They're triggered to especially the LGBT plus community. Like, they're triggered for everything. Like, oh my God, you need to accept this. I don't have to accept you. It's my own personal. That's what's great about being an American. I don't have to accept you. I can look at you with disgust if I want to, because that is my amendment. It's in the Constitution. I don't have to do that. But they want acceptance. They want this. They want that. Hey, like my mother said.
Oh, but wait. With the LGBTQ letterhead, the
alphabet people, I call them.
Yep, I've heard that too. What I would like to say is, again, what I think America is doing is we're putting everybody's I want to say this. I was an identical twin. Everybody knew who I was because I was an identical twin. My last name was Landino. Everybody knew I was Italian all of a sudden, but the hook nose gave it away as well. But and the hair, oh my God, I had more hair than my first boyfriend on my chest than he did. It's like, wow, this is going to work out well.
Wait, anywho, so you talk about the hair. Did you have the crazy 80s haircut?
I ended up getting the perm. We all wanted to be black. Okay. Come on. It was just easier in the summer.
Our hair wasn't thick enough to do that really great height.
No.
So we would get perms and look terrible. Absolutely terrible.
But then I didn't want to be married, because then women were taking the last name of the husband, and it was like, fuck that. So I wouldn't wear a ring, a diamond, because I said, well, then people will know I'm engaged. Now I'm at ownership. Might as well put a dog collar around. And then I didn't want to take my husband's last name, which I never did, because why should I do that? My father had no men. Hello. I mean, why should I take your name? Then my father's name dies? I don't think so. So my father thanked me, and I said, don't thank me, Dad, because if I could, I would have taken mommy's last name, Simmons, but they changed it at Ellis Island. It was supposed to be Simone, and I didn't really like that. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
Samoa sounds like you're from like Samoa or something.
Yeah,
you know?
I know it. So what I want to say to young people, not just LGBTQ, if you keep putting everything out there, you're separate. You are on purpose, not on purpose. It could be subconsciously. You're separating yourselves, because what's happening is immediately, if I was out of the group, I became kind of out of the group. People didn't accept me, and they said Joan's just crazy. That's what they kind of pushed me aside. So,
ladies, they're setting themselves up. I mean, literally. I mean, you're putting your shit out there on social media, and then they're gonna cry and bitch about it, like, oh, why am I getting attacked? You're getting attacked because you're putting stupid shit on the internet. I mean,
like I want to be like Pete Buttigieg. If you're gonna put your sexuality out there, Pete Buttigieg said, I hope to have the day when my sex life and my sexual identity isn't part of me coming to get a job. Now think, when I was back at Wendy's, none of us really said, I prefer men, I prefer women, I prefer boys, I prefer girls, whatever.
I prefer
animals. Goats. Yeah, goats and shit. Everybody was fucking sheep and shit.
Yeah.
What?
I was gonna say, now you have these lunatics today, like they're identifying themselves as, like you said, they're sheep. I've seen some crazy chick about a couple months ago running through the fucking woods somewhere in Tennessee because she thinks that she's a wolf. I mean,
you're so funny. My son admitted to me, he said, Mom, what are you talking about? When I was in school, 2 of the kids wore tails every day.
And we didn't even know that.
I didn't even know it. And I don't think he told me about it. And I don't.
But what I want to say is, when we were little, Jane and Joan, we identified more with animals. So there was this dog in the neighborhood that never had to be tied, because back then we didn't have to tie animals. And she used to come over, Moochie was her name, and she drank out of a bowl, her water. So we liked her better than human beings. And we said to our mom, we would like our milk out of the we didn't swear back then, fucking bowl. So she had to put 2 bowls of, and that's what she did. She asked us why. We said, because Moochie drinks that way. She went, okay. She put 2 bowls of milk on the fireplace little edge, and we went on our hands and knees and drank the milk. It's like,
and under her breath, she said, they're goddamn nuts.
Yes.
But the point
but you didn't. You didn't do half the shit. Yeah, but you didn't do half the shit that you see these people do it today. I mean, this woman, she's living in the woods. She lives next to wolves, and then she's going into bestiality, where she's like, well, I feel that it's okay if I sleep with the wolves and have sex with the wolves. I'm like, what the fuck?
You know what? As a former therapist, and as the boring, depressed twin, that I became more, my father called me the lecturer, because I wouldn't shut up. If only they would have validated part of what my complaining process was. So as a former therapist, all acting out, whether it's verbal acting out or physical acting out, is based on some type of negativity. Suppression, physical abuse, emotional abuse, financially strangling people. I mean, I love my ex-husband, so I refuse to go over there. But there was one time where I had fantasies of getting a spray paint can, and spray painting something on his nice house in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's very, very middle class, but it was a decent house, of course. So, it's all. So one of the things I did with parenting, because I tried to read a little bit, even though we learned life cycle, what you maybe should do to foster development versus squashing it, is when somebody comes. I'll tell you the funniest story. So I decided, Jane, the boring one. I decided I'm running away from home, and I was in, I believe, 5th or 6th grade. So I had on what we called bathrobes back in the day is a house coat. Maybe that's a
I've heard that terminology before.
Yep. It's like kind of like knapsack before it became a backpack. Yeah. So anyway, I have my bathrobes, my house coat on, and my pajamas and my slippers, and I packed a stupid little bag with nothing. And our mom was working because we were that middle class in the neighborhood where the mother had to work a little bit and then to get the health.
A little bit, full time.
She worked full time to get the health insurance, and my father had to be reminded of that. So anyway, I go outside. Our dad is outside, and I don't just walk down the street. I don't go running away without someone seeing me. I have to be dramatic. Someone has to see me.
Of course.
Of course. So he's outside working on the yard, and I walk up to him and I stand there, and he looks at me and he says, what are you doing? And I said, I am running away from home. Appropriately for the time, he slapped me on the arm and said, get in the house. And I turned around and marched right back into the house. But that experience,
yes,
I carry as a positive thing, because we also got to slam doors when we were angry, and we didn't get yelled at
and
for
break a couple of things. Because remember, who has the most dopamine? I think parents forget this. The highest level of dopamine, number one, is in a schizophrenic.
Sure.
They have the highest. But who has the highest level of dopamine in our lifespan is when we are adolescents. So we are supposed to act somewhat out there. You might not understand our actions.
You're learning, you're experiencing. It's all part of growing up, you know. The mind is like a sponge. You know, when you're a little boy or a little girl, you learn from your mistakes and you grow and you improve your life, you know. And then hopefully by the time you're, my age or your age, when you're adults in your 40s or 50s or 60s, by then you're filled with wisdom and hopefully intelligence. But we can't always say that, because some people grow up to be dumbasses and retards, but that's another segment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be closing it out. I wish I had some more time, but I have another guest coming on around like 11:30. I have to invite you back if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. Because you want to know why? Yeah. Because LGBTQ do not have friendly homes. There was over half or a third or 2/3. They go to homes that are unfriendly and not affirming what they are. And if you don't act like our mother, who cares where you drink out of? Everyone is loved unconditionally, and strangers, you're right, get to not like you for a while. Absolutely. Thank you.
Great stuff. I'll hold that thought, guys. If you want to hear more of the Therapy Twins, you can head over to their website, therapytwins.com. Check out their content. Check out their amazing material. Very humorous and funny ladies. Thank you very much for being part of the Savage Unfiltered podcast, ladies.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Take it easy.